Hi, this is Paul here from selfoutforlife.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to release emotions using the Sedona Method. So with emotions we have two options typically, which is either suppressing them, which is holding them inside, or expressing them, which is acting them out in some way. And they're both useful in different situations. So to give you an example of suppressing emotions, so let's say you're in a meeting with your boss and clients and other colleagues, and somebody says something that really makes you angry. Okay? Now you could express that anger in the meeting, but what will probably happen is you will say something that you would regret later, and that may affect your career and the people you work with. Or you could choose to bite your tongue, hold those emotions in, and then deal with them another way outside of the meeting. So maybe then talking to whoever it was that said that, or your boss or whoever it was, when you feel calmer, and expressing it in that way, or just expressing it in another way altogether. So the second option is expressing. Okay, so that is actually acting out the emotions. So a situation where that's a good thing to do, a couple of situations. One is if you want to express your feelings to your partner, then the more you can just do that openly and express that fully, the better. Or maybe you've got some kind of cause, event, some kind of charity that you really want other people to support. So if you can really talk about that passionately and really get fully involved emotionally into it, then you're more likely to bring other people with you, you're more likely to influence other people to join you, and that kind of thing. So the problem with expressing and suppression is if you do it in the long term. Okay, so long-term expression or suppression is not good for you. So suppression, holding things in, that's bad for your body. Okay, particularly if you're holding in things like resentment. There's been studies that have shown that holding in negative emotions can actually affect your health, and you can develop certain diseases later in life as well. Also, when you're suppressing emotions in, your body will try and express them in some way. And if you try and continually hold that down, then often you use other ways to do that, other ways to kind of hide them. So that could be using alcohol, that could be emotional eating, could be becoming a workaholic, so you just work so hard that you never have to think about those feelings that you're trying to suppress. Now expression, on the other hand, long-term expression, that creates problems as well, but more for other people. So if you're always acting out your anger, then that starts to become a habit, and you start to become an angry person. Okay, so it starts to become part of your sense of identity. And obviously that's going to harm your relationships with other people, with your partner, with your family. If you're always coming across as angry, then people are going to, not hang around with you as much, that kind of thing. So suppression in the long term creates problems for you, and expressing in the long term creates problems for other people. So what I want to talk about in this video is a third option, which is called releasing. And it's the middle ground that people rarely think about. And it is something we do naturally. So when you're laughing, when you're having a really good belly laugh, you will be releasing emotions when you're doing that. And you've probably been through this experience of losing your keys or losing your wallet, and then when you find it, you have that sense of relief that comes from that. That's also an example of releasing. So what I want to talk about in this video is how to release consciously using the Sedona Method. Now, I introduced the Sedona Method in a previous video where I talked about the 9 emotional states. And in case you didn't see that video, the Sedona Method was made famous by someone called Hale Dwoskins. And he wrote a book called the Sedona Method, and he does retreats and various other events as well, where he really goes deep with this method. But in this book he talked about the 9 emotional states, which are from the lowest to the highest. So lowest level of action and energy was apathy, then grief, then fear, lust, anger, pride. And then there was the 3 positive or empowering emotional states, which are courageousness, acceptance and peace. And there's a link to that video in the description below, so do feel free to check that out. But what I didn't really talk about in that video was how to move from one emotional state to another, particularly how to access those higher level emotional states. And one of the ways to do that is by using the Sedona Method releasing technique, or by releasing generally. So by doing this consciously, it allows yourself to move to the more higher emotional states. Now, the Sedona Method questioning technique, which is part of the Sedona Method, is a really simple process to help you release or let go of emotions. And it is so simple that it's really easy to dismiss. But it is a process that really works, especially when you do it regularly. So to get the most out of this video, what I'd like you to do is think of a situation or feeling that is limiting in some way. So it could be some experience in the past that, although you can't change the actual experience, you could maybe change how you feel about it. Or it could be some kind of stuck feeling in the present, or just some kind of situation that you'd just like to use for this exercise. And the first step is to focus on the issue that you would like to feel better about. And then allow yourself to feel whatever that feeling is in the moment. And then as you're doing that, ask yourself this question, which is, what am I feeling right now? So what am I feeling right now? And that's in relation to whatever the issue or the feeling that you came up with. And this feeling doesn't have to be a strong feeling. It could be a numb, flat or blank feeling, or some kind of empty feeling inside as well. So by now, hopefully you've got a sense of what that feeling is and what that issue is. And so we'll move to step 2. So step 2 is to ask, can I fully experience this feeling right now? So can I fully experience this feeling right now? Now if that's a yes, what I want you to do is to fully experience that feeling as well as any sensations, sounds, thoughts and pictures that arise with this feeling. Experience this feeling fully in the here and now as best as you can. This is important because most of us live our lives with our thoughts, pictures and stories all geared towards the past or the future. So we're never really completely in the present. So what I want you to do with this exercise is to really experience this feeling in the present right now. Because if you think about it, the only time we can ever do anything about our feelings, or about anything else in life for that matter, is in the here and now. So experience this as best as you can right now. Now if when you ask this question, can I fully experience this feeling right now, if you get a no answer intuitively, then just notice what feeling comes up with that. And it'll be some kind of resistance kind of feeling. And then what I invite you to do after watching this video is go back to step 1 and go through the process again with that new feeling. So step 3 is to ask yourself, can I let it go? Can I let this feeling, or even the whole issue, can I just let the whole thing go from my life? And this question is really asking, is it possible to do this? And yes and no are both possible answers. And you'll often find that you'll release and let go even when you answer no to this question. So I encourage you to answer this question with the minimum of thought. Don't try and second guess or get into any internal debate about the merits or consequences. It's quite interesting actually, because Hale says in the book that these questions are deliberately simple and they're not necessarily important in themselves. But what they are is they're designed to point you into the experience of letting go. Okay, so the experience of letting go, i.e. to stop you holding on. However, having said that, if a no feeling does come up, again just notice what that feeling is. So again there'll be some kind of resistance or holding on kind of feeling, and then use that feeling to go back to step 1 and then work through the questions again with that feeling. So step 4 is to ask yourself, am I willing to let it go? So am I willing to let it go? Again, I want you to avoid any kind of debate on this. Remember, you're doing this to gain your own sense of freedom and clarity. And when you ask that question, am I willing to let it go? Remember that it doesn't matter whether the feeling is justified, long-standing, or even right. And if you do answer no, or if you're unsure, you can ask this question: would I rather have this feeling, or would I rather be free? So would I rather have this feeling, or would I rather be free? And if that gives you a yes answer, then continue to the last step, step 5. But if you still get a no answer, then notice what comes up. Again, it'll be some kind of resistance, and then go back to step 1 using that new feeling. So step 5 is to ask yourself a very simple question, which is when. And really this question is an invitation to just let go right now. And you might find yourself just easily letting go as you do that. But remember that letting go or releasing is a decision, and it's a decision you can make at any time. And if the answer is no, or not now, then notice what comes up, and again you can go back to step 1 with that, whatever that hesitation, whatever that feeling is. But what will typically happen is when you answer now to the when question, is that you will start releasing automatically straight away. It will just start to happen. Now there are certain things you can do to make the releasing experience more magical for you. A common one I really like is just to, as you breathe out, just feel yourself breathing out that emotion. So a kind of a something like that. So just a real kind of like sigh of relief as you breathe out. So a kind of a something like that. Another thing you can do is you can visualize a knot and see that knot unraveling as you let go. Or you can picture gripping a feeling in your hand, or actually grip the feeling in your hand like this. And then as you release, you can see your hand opening and just notice that feeling leaving as you do that. Another thing you can do is you can hold a small object in your hand, like a pen, and then as you let go, you can open up your hand and let that pen or item drop to the floor. Another thing you can do is you can put your hands on your stomach or your solar plexus, and then as you let go, you can tilt your hands up and then out, so up and out like this, and then you can just let the feeling go like that. So that's another option you can do. And what that's quite nice, because that creates like an imaginary space for those feelings to release and let go. So that's basically the Sedona Method questioning technique. So as I say, it's super simple, so let's just recap those questions again. So the first thing you do is you think of an experience or feeling that you'd like to just let go of, and the first question you ask is, what am I feeling right now? Okay, and then the second question is, can I fully experience this feeling right now? So you start by identifying the feeling, and then the second step allows you to fully experience that feeling. Then the third question is, can I let it go? Can I just let the whole thing go? And then the fourth step and question is, am I willing to let it go? And then the final step is, if so, when? And that's normally an invitation to let go right away. Now I encourage you to work with this method, practice it. It's really easy to practice. The results with this may be very subtle to start with, but the more you practice it, the more you release on things, the more persistent you are with it, the more you'll start to notice the results becoming more and more noticeable. Because typically you might have layers of feelings for one issue, and so the more you work through this, the more you work through those layers. But the great thing about the Sedona Method is once you release on something, that feeling has changed for good. You know, it's a permanent change. So if you do it more and more consistently, you'll start to notice yourself feeling lighter, maybe less emotional, and you'll start to access those higher level emotions of courageousness, acceptance and peace more often as well. So what I suggest you do is firstly practice this a few times. You can use this video as a guide to help you through the experience. I do recommend getting hold of the book. It's on Amazon. I'll put a link to the book below. It's a really good read and there's lots of great stuff around emotions on there. The book is incredibly detailed and very practical as well. There's lots of other exercises in there as well. And also encourage you to like this video, give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe to this channel for future updates if you haven't already, and click the bell icon so you get notified whenever I release a new video. And do leave a comment below as well. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear how you're getting on with the Sedona Method process as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you get a lot out of it. I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.